A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I'm your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me as always is the General Beale to my Colonel Nord, it's John Campbell.
The most beloved of Star Wars characters, yes. Hello, everybody.
They'll make it out of this issue, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure they'll be just fine.
Yes. We're back into it as we are hip deep in a conspiracy against the Dark Lord of the Sith. Holy moly, John.
I know. A rare time I was actually excited to read the next issue.
I know, right? Because we are, of course, covering issue number 52 of Marvel Comics Group Presents Star Wars. This is the original Marvel Star Wars run. We are covering the 52nd issue, which was released in October of 1981. Yes. We've got a lot of the same creative team that we saw last issue, and we liked last issue, so hey, they're back.
It's nice, yeah. They won't be for long, but that's okay.
We'll take what we can get, honestly, with this book.
Yeah, that is the thing. You've got to look for the highs where they are because they don't come very often.
We've got David Michelini on writing. We've got the legendary Walt Simonson on pencils, Tom Palmer on inks, Don Warfield on colors, Jack Morelli on letters. We've got a certain Louise Jones as our editor, and a shooter in the distance just overseeing it all.
So threatening every time that shooter's in the distance.
Well, look, you ask the crew over at Marvel Comics these days, and they would say that a certain shooter is pretty threatening.
Yes. Yeah, we're smack dab in the middle of this two-part storyline with an internal coup, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, go listen to our last episode if you want to catch up on the story, because, yeah, we're hip deep in a conspiracy against Darth Vader. We've got another Imperial superweapon. There's always an Imperial superweapon that we got to deal with.
Yeah, we've talked about that as one of the biggest Star Wars tropes, for sure.
It's up there.
Yeah, as I called it last week, this is the Operation Valkyrie of the Empire.
Yeah, totally. If Operation Valkyrie also had a couple of Americans, French, and Europeans running around inside the Nazi superweapon.
Yeah.
Which, now that I pitch that sounds fucking awesome.
Sounds like a rad man on a mission movie. Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, the World War II movies, big influence on Star Wars, of course.
It's absolutely true. I don't know if you can find it, but there's widely reported about how to simulate the X-Wing dogfights. George Lucas cut together a bunch of World War II fighter plane footage to sort of simulate what the movement and the velocity of the shots would feel like.
You can see it. I believe it's in the ILM documentary that's on Disney Plus. You can see what their source footage, and it matches up pretty close.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of intense swooping spaceships, let's find this cover here. Oh, I love this cover.
Oh, I mean, you got a straight up horror movie cover here with Darth Vader, hands over. I mean, just a stalking monster of a Vader. It's a real Frankenstein kind of poster.
Totally. This reminds me a lot of some of the Marvel horror comics of a little bit before this era, with your Tombs of Dracula and your Werewolves by Night.
Absolutely. And I love seeing Vader as monster, right? It's really cool.
We really enjoyed Vader last issue. I really enjoy Vader in this issue.
Well, they let him be scary. They let him be intimidating. They let him be powerful. This is a Walt Simonson cover, I'm confirming.
I mean, the man doesn't miss. I mean, he does.
No,
Look, Walt Simonson is... He's like any other artist. There are some times when he's rushed, and you can find faults in his art. But for the most part, I love me some Simonson art.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and yeah, you've got him basically presiding over a space battle.
Yes, the Millennium Falcon swooping away from Darth Vader's own TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Got that TIE Advanced swooping in. And
we'll
get a little bit.
You get some of that in this.
Yeah. So,
cool.
I think this cover delivers on what this issue's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's open it up here.
Right off the bat, witness the building of a world.
Yeah, it's a real movie trailer opening to this thing.
Yeah, look, there's this whole concept that Michelini is playing with in this issue of, like, the inside of the Tarkin, which is this Imperial superweapon, is like a whole different world. And
yeah.
I don't know if that whole, like, metaphor he's trying to build totally lands necessarily.
It doesn't, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, we praised his, like, purpley prose last issue, and I think for the most part it's still pretty good in this issue.
It irked me a little bit more in this one, but yeah, nothing as bad as some stuff we've seen or some stuff we will see.
Yeah, strap in for next week. Just saying.
Yeah, I think that does add to me going like, this is not that bad. But I love all the art. I love the panel design on this with the sort of little vignettes going, and then the big overhead shot of our heroes inside this massive, war machine. I love the guy welding.
Yeah, we got actual, like, construction workers moving around. We never actually saw this in any of the Death Stars in the movies of, like, even people actually, like, soldering things into place.
Yeah, even in Jedi when we have one that's under construction. No, I don't think we've actually seen anyone, like, actively working in it.
Not that I can recall, no.
Those poor independent contractors, as Clerks mentioned.
I think the closest we get is in Andor. We see those, like, robots welding bits into place on the, like, main weapon of the Death Star.
Yeah. Well, and of course, that show also gets into the slave labor that is
totally
building this thing, which is, not a shock.
But I like the composition of these panels when you, like, start in on these little details of the interior of this thing, and then you break wide on this next page with this huge double-page spread that is just phenomenal. And I'll widen out the art here on the YouTube version of our show so that everyone can see just what we're dealing with here. This is, like, Simonson gone berserk in terms of, like, his big space nonsense.
I was trying to figure out what is the size of this thing in comparison to the Death Star, and it seems fairly close. I mean, look at the way it's dwarfing some Star Destroyers.
Yeah, and again, the idea is that they just took the cannon out of the Death Star and built engines around it. So, like, at least it is on the same scale as the Death Star. It's not quite as, like, spherical, and that's no moon size.
No.
But it's big.
It's a big flying gun.
Which is, like, cool.
It is actually, it's very cool. And it actually, no offense to what comes later, but it is like, this is actually kind of cooler than where the movies go. The thought on the movie is just, they just build another one. This is actually going like, no, they were like, the mistake was we tried to make this anything other than a gun.
Yeah, we get our title for the issue, To Take the Tarkin. As, we get these...
I mean, real men on a mission vibe, which I love.
We get some of that scale in the caption here, as it says, outside, escorting destroyers that look like insects compared to their charge. Their normally formidable firepower like stings compared to the Tarkin's huge, planet-shattering ionic cannon.
Yeah, man.
We get brief intros for all of our main heroes. We got Chewie, we got 3PO, we got Luke, Leia, and, of course, the spunky droid R2-D2.
Oh, just looking to murder. I will say, though, the thing on Leia's head looks dumb.
Oh, yeah, and she loses it pretty quick here. So.
Yeah, because it's silly.
Just because she's got the yellow submarine strapped to her head.
Yeah. I did not agree to wear this. Yeah.
But yeah, I love the detail on the ship here, the huge, like, space background that we've got here. Yeah, Walt Simonson just killing it with the art.
Men on a Mission, this is quite literally the space guns of Navarone, right? I mean, they are trying to destroy a giant cannon.
Totally. No, absolutely. They just happen to be crawling around inside the cannon.
Right, instead of climbing a mountain to get to it. Yeah, they're already inside it. Anyway, turn the page and what's this?
Imperial's stormtroopers, who would have thunk?
Not stormtroopers. We'll never get past them. These guys, come on.
I love all the stormtrooper shenanigans in this issue. And this is just the start of a full sequence of stormtrooper shenanigans.
It certainly is. And I will actually say, more on their game than we are used to stormtroopers. These guys are actually somewhat doing their job right up until they get murdered. Spoiler.
Because, yeah, they come around the corner and the stormtrooper's like, hey, this is a limited access corridor. Where's your papers? And
then this other guy's scanning him and going, I think this dude's got a proton grenade. And then Leia's like, fuck this shit, and just mows him down.
Man, this issue is so heavy on action, Leia, and I am here for it.
Well, I'm always here for that, and particularly in comparison to how she's been written, some of this stuff post-Empire has just been embarrassing.
Yeah. No,
and this is the Leia we want, just murdering stormtroopers.
When Leia's first instinct is to A, ditch the goofy hat, and B, kill people, we know we're on the right track.
Well, because they're actually... We were reading something a while back that was Luke and Leia, and we were talking about, like, it didn't read for their characters at all. I can't remember what it was.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Yeah, it probably was that, yeah. And this is so on point, where it's like, Luke's like, whoa, fellas, let's try to explain this. And Leia's like, now!
Yeah, I think I have our papers right here. Pulls out gun.
Yeah. She fordatches them straight to hell, man.
I do love a good fordatch. It looks like she kills them both with one shot.
It does appear to be that, which is pretty awesome. And Luke being like, God! I will say, though, and this is just, it's a Marvel Comics thing, because all the characters say this. Luke saying, blast!
Yeah, I caught that.
There's something in the water at Marvel. Everyone has to say this. I think Lando said it in the last issue, and we were like, what?
I write it off because it would be like our equivalent of saying shoot.
Yeah.
Because they've got blasters, I guess? I don't know.
But it's such a like old-timey comic book, like, blast!
Yeah. Curse you, Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Yeah, it's once again, it's purpley. It's got sort of a like, oh, that's a little much, isn't it?
But he does say, I'd hope we'd get farther without the scene, but now, well, you know your jobs. Let's take off and split the party.
I hoped we'd get farther. Luke knew at some point this was going to play out. He just hoped it'd be later. Yeah, it's the best.
The classic D&D thing of just like, look, at some point this is all going to devolve into chaos, and we have to acknowledge that up front. But let's try to have some kind of plan, at least in the beginning phases of what we're doing here.
And then immediately, this just off the rails.
Yeah, so Luke, Leia, and Chewie and the droids split into 3 different teams.
I love Chewie and the droids. Their second album in particular, really.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Chewie and the droids open for Hootie and the Blowfish. If Chewie was the front man of a band,
yeah,
would he also play an instrument or just be on vocals?
Ooh. I feel like he's the guy who surprisingly pulls out an instrument. Like when Mick Jagger plays guitar. It's not always. It's like Chewie will bust out a sax mid-set or something.
Okay.
He'll do a solo, and you're like, I didn't know he played the sax.
Yeah. It's like when, what's his name from Aerosmith starts playing piano.
Oh, yeah, Steven Tyler.
Yeah.
And you're like,
all right. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Chewie busts out like the marimba halfway through the set.
Yeah, Chewie's a marimba guy for sure. He just goes over to a xylophone, and you're like, "What? I can't believe I'm seeing this." All right, yeah.
So they split the party. They go around, but what's this? As the rebels disperse, and moments later, on the Tarkin's bridge, a report reaches the battle station's commander-in-chief, Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm. Lord of the Sith. Which, once again, I find so interesting that was clearly in documents, because they never say Sith in the original trilogy.
They didn't because it was cut out. There is a deleted scene of that boardroom scene where they use the term, "Oh, this Lord of the Sith that's ordering us around."
I think it's such an interesting thing where it's obviously in the documents they had, so they just toss it around in this comic. But at the time, I mean, I guess through context clues, but I remember first hearing about Sith really in the prequels was the first time I really remember it being bandied about on the regular.
I mean, that's the first time they say it in a film of any sort.
Yeah. It's just so interesting though that it's such a like, well, of course, the Sith. But if you're just watching the movies, you might read the comic and go, what? The what?
Yeah, and again, I think this came down to a Lucas loving to bog things down with lore and some of the, let's be honest, better filmmakers around him being like, look, we'll just play some scary music, he'll enter all dramatically and be dressed in black. People will get it. You don't have to get him fancy titles and stuff.
Yeah. And now, of course, we're talking about, I mean, you know, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of watching The Acolyte, and we just bandied Sith about it on there, so...
I have theories where that's concerned. We'll wait until that show's over to discuss them.
You've probably already seen that episode too, folks. So,
leastways, we have a Colonel Nord here on the bridge reporting to Vader. He's saying there's been a disturbance and some guys are dead.
Yeah, I like that they gave John Ratzenberger more work. Is all I'm saying. That real close-up where he's walking out the door, that's 100% Cliff Clavin, folks.
Oh, later when he's like sweating over a panel, you're just like, oh, is he going to Cheers after this?
I don't know about that, Lord Vader. It's going to take me a while to figure that out, but I'll get back to you.
You have a pretty good John Ratzenberger.
Thank you. Yes. That's just from mainlining Cheers my whole life.
That's fair.
But, yeah. But it doesn't. Ratzenberger, of course, who is in Empire Strikes Back, but is now apparently an Imperial officer.
Look, he's changing sides all over the place.
I just can't make up my mind, Sammy. But all right, I'll stop.
But he reconfirms some stuff that we had established last issue. That is like, Lord Vader has ordered that they remove all security away from the main power reactor, and Vader is doing that as a way to trap Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, he's doing the classic like, no, let them through.
And I mean, it is a thing that goes right back to the original Star Wars movie where it is stated in dialogue, oh no, we let them go to lead us back to the rebel base.
Yeah, Vader's always playing 3D chess, right? Like, it's always like this to that, and he sees an end game here. But of course, what he doesn't know, though, is that everyone's trying to murder him.
Yeah, because we see Colonel Nord slipping away, going down an elevator, and going to this like executive lounge where all the other Imperial officers are hanging out.
By the way, this other guy, General Beale, he seems the cooler one because he's like, Colonel, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, because he comes down here and Colonel Nord is like, look, General, I think it's time. We got to act soon. This Vader is totally off the leash. And we get a little bit more of the conspiracy here as General Beale's like, too many of our fellow officers have died at the Dark Lord's whim, all making mistakes that anyone human could understand. And any of us might be next.
Okay, that's my favorite thing, is the idea like, people make mistakes, all right? That is not worthy of the death penalty, okay?
Look, they're Imperials. They're not insane.
And it's a valid point too. Like, if you're gonna kill people for every little thing, eventually there's gonna be nobody left.
Yeah, so this whole idea of the Imperial like upper management being like, we have to stop this psychopath.
I do love, and this comes up sporadically throughout Star Wars, the idea that it's just like, these people aren't rebels. They're still on board with the tyranny of the Empire. It's just that guy's out of control.
Right, exactly.
These aren't altruistic characters. They're just like, we just can't have a guy at the top murdering people, okay?
Yeah, and it always raises the question how many of the Imperial like higher-ups know that they're serving an evil space wizard, and the answer is not many.
No, I don't think so. No, it's just most people are like, it's a real, it's a classic fascist thing, right? Of just like, most of it is like, well, it'd make the trains run on time, so, we're fine.
Meanwhile, we cut to back to the planet below where the Tarkin is orbiting and being worked on. We have a spaceport on the planet Hockaleg.
Which is a great name for a
Never not funny to say, yeah.
Hockaleg. And here's the Millennium Falcon. But what's this? There's a stowaway aboard.
Yeah, because remember last issue, we had this whole confrontation between Leia and Lando where she was saying, look, we can't trust you, man. You betrayed Han Solo. I don't want you anywhere near this very important mission. And Lando had this little bit of an aside like, oh, don't trust me, will you? It turns out, in order to gain her trust, Lando disobeyed Leia's orders and snuck aboard the Millennium Falcon.
This is an interesting move that ends up paying off for Lando. But is still, objectively, when I saw this, I'm like, okay, buddy. Interesting.
Lando thinking the best way to earn someone's trust is by betraying their trust is pretty Lando.
Just the idea about, like, I'll make them see how useful I am.
Yeah. I do love the setup caption here, though, as we, miles below on Hawkaleg, at a spaceport where questions are most frequently answered by the jangle of coins or the crack of a blaster. Like, that's very evocative.
That's good stuff. But then you got Lando going, oh, man, I got cramps in places I didn't even know I had muscles. These smuggling pins are tight.
Yeah, as he comes up out of the floor.
Ooh, youch.
But then, what's this?
Hours, right?
I mean, presumably, maybe a day or two.
Oh, my God. Anyway,
Yeah, with a definitive I love the idea of any Star Wars character going,
Uh-oh. And particularly Lando being like, uh-oh.
Because it's stormtroopers.
It sure is, and that's bad news.
Specifically stormtroopers who, again, doing their job. Because they're like, hey, isn't that the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah, one of them, by the way, I will say, the Millennium Falcon, one of the coolest ships ever, but also so recognizable.
And yes, there's some, like, lore stuff that, like, okay, Corellian freighters are super common in the lore of Star Wars.
I understand.
We never see that in the movies.
That's key right there. As I can understand that intellectually, however, I've never seen that.
There is one shot in Attack of the Clones where you see a Corellian freighter like coming into land on Coruscant, or maybe it's Naboo. I don't remember, but and everyone's like, "Hey, is that Millennium Falcon?" And they're like, "No, it's just an Easter egg. It's the same kind of ship."
But the fact that everyone said it's the Millennium Falcon just proves the point, right? Like
exactly,
because it makes sense. Number one, we want the Millennium Falcon to be uniquely our hero's ship.
Sure.
So you can't have a bunch of other Falcons running, or Falcon-type ships running around.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it does make it so stormtroopers go, I know that ship. I'd know it anywhere. Anyway, they go, so they walk towards it. But we cut back to the Tarkin.
Yeah, and this is where we get into what I really like about this issue, is that it is sort of a remix of the whole infiltration of the Death Star from A New Hope. Except we have different characters going to different locations that we aren't really expecting. So, like in this instance, we come along this tractor beam generator, very iconic. It looks just like the one that Obi-Wan shut off in A New Hope. But this time, it's the droids and Chewbacca who are going to take care of it.
But I also like the idea that they sent them there specifically because they had been on, as we talked about in the last issue, they had been on the Death Star. So they're like, oh, well, they're going to kind of know what the deal with this is because it's the same basic technology, even if it's a different design.
Right. So this initial plan here, as we have R2 coming out and the stormtroopers being like, hey, what the hell are you doing here, droid? But then 3PO coming up and being like, oh, we're here to conduct maintenance on the tractor beam.
This is how you use 3PO. We've talked about, like, why is 3PO? Just the idea of him, like, babbling at a stormtrooper is his tactical advantage, right? Like, that's the only thing he can really offer is just distraction by annoyance.
Well, until we get to this bit where he says, oh, but I assure you, it does. You'll be making a grave mistake if you don't. And the stormtrooper turns to him and says, the only grave you got to worry about is a scrap heap, bot.
And he's going to pistol whip him.
But then a bandoliered shadow looms up behind this trooper.
This is my favorite part of the comic, as you could probably have guessed.
Because on this next page, we have Chewie bodily lifting this guy into the air.
Yeah. And the other stormtrooper's going, Jesus Christ!
My favorite thing in this panel here on the top right, or on the top left, is the other stormtrooper turning going, what the? Is that Wookiee attacking Burl? They named the other stormtrooper.
Yeah, you are. I don't. How often do we ever get a stormtrooper name? Very rarely.
So rarely. Because if you start naming them, you start thinking of the most people.
Right, yeah, they're definitely not.
Well, you can't think of them that way, or else it gets real grim real fast.
Yeah, exactly. Then, yeah, come on, they're not. Yeah, they're not human. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, I also like that Burl is the name.
And Burl, unfortunately, gets lifted above Chewie's head and then tossed like a freaking log straight at the tractor beam reactor.
Being like, great, now how are we going to shut it down? And it's just Chewbacca hurls this guy into the reactor. Taken care of, man.
I love, again, the remix quality of this is like, okay, in the first movie, Obi-Wan snuck in all silent and like stealthy, and he used the Jedi powers to distract the guards, slipping in totally unseen. What does Chewie do? He throws the guy into it.
And the explosion kills the other two stormtroopers, by the way.
Well, this is, again, a safety and quality of life thing. They did not install handrails on this particular catwalk either.
Man, they really are cutting corners. Do you think Vader was like, it costs how much? Forget it, we don't need them.
But sir, we're saving so much on not building the rest of the station. You think we could spring for handrails?
I said we don't need them. I've already exited out on the form. Yeah.
You think I filled this thing out in pencil? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's ink, baby. Black ink. Anyway. So let's turn the page here. And oh, no!
Well, Leia's sneaking into the escape pod bay to make sure they have a way of getting out of here.
That's a good idea. Escape plan is good. But she's suddenly surrounded. They don't have the upper hand for long.
So yeah, 4 stormtroopers coming out of the escape pods here. Leia goes, they must have been waiting for me. So clearly Vader's tipping his hand a little bit that they've got the escape routes covered. They know that they're there.
Right.
But Leia, not fucking around, dispatches all of these guys in some Jason Bourne-esque.
Holy shit. Yeah, because the one stormtrooper says, drop that blaster. She goes, well, I guess I should. But you never said not to grab yours. And then pew, 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 pew. They're all dead.
This maneuver she does here is so cool and not something you ever think about in Star Wars. She leans back, grabs 2 of these guys' guns, and then drags them forward so that like the jerking motion of dragging them forward causes them to pull the trigger and shoot the other 2 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
It's a really cool move, and I think the comic does a really good job of like conveying the motion and action here.
Well, Simonson knows what he's doing. But yes, the thing about that, as you bring up, is it is very Jason Bourne, and though we know Leia to be a badass, I've never seen her do anything like this.
Well, we've never given her the opportunity, I think.
No, it's not that. That's what I'm saying. It's not that I don't think she could, but yeah, to just see like all of a sudden you're just like, good lord. This is a trained killing machine.
Well, because then she, like, dive rolls for one of the dropped guns, comes up, and just in 3 quick shots, fa-dam, fa-cack, fa-ram, she just takes out the other stormtroopers.
I love that every blaster shot has to have a different sound in this comic.
Well, it depends on what it's hitting. Clearly, the fa-dam is when it hits the midsection, the fa-cam is when it rebounds off of a shoulder plate, and the fa-ram is when it takes out this guy's lower abdomen.
What we don't see is his just bisected body on the ground. They're going to be finding parts.
Leia body count now currently at 6.
Yeah. Yep. Let's check in with what Luke's up to.
Luke Skywalker is currently more concerned with the circumstances than, what is it? But Luke Skywalker is currently more concerned with circumstance than with fortune, for the corridors he walks are strangely deserted, and he wonders why he hasn't met with any resistance he'd expected.
And he's like, wow, once again, this is a more capable Luke, right? Like, he's going like, this feels suspicious.
Yeah, as opposed to
No
the
longer I am Kashi Station.
he's no longer like mindlessly chattering at R2 and or himself about the suspicious nature of these corridors either.
Boy, yeah, Jesus. No, not only like we've talked a lot about Simonson, but Michelini has a much better control over the tone and seems to get the characters better than Archie Goodwin did. In
Totally.
particular.
Well, and it definitely seems like these are characters who have lived through the first two Star Wars movies too.
Yes, that's what. Yeah, it actually feels like these characters have progressed, which was our big criticism against the post Empire Goodwin scripts.
So we get this cutaway to Vader, who's lurking in a nearby corridor, and he's just like,
Yeah.
"That's right, get in nice and close, Luke Skywalker."
Oh, this is gonna be good.
But then we cut back up to the bridge, and Colonel Nord is monitoring this situation. And he's like, okay, Vader's standing right in front of an airlock, and Luke Skywalker's coming around the corner here, and Vader thinks he's laying a trap, but I think now is my opportunity to finally rid myself of this troublesome Vader.
Seems like, I mean, on paper, a good plan.
Yeah, Luke's got his proton grenade ready to go because he thinks he's right around the corner, but he pauses and hesitates because he senses something he has not felt.
And this is in a long time.
At least like a couple of issues.
Yeah, because I was reading this going, now what's going to happen? Because once again, this is nothing against Michelini, but like you can't make too many big moves here, and also they don't know what the deal with that. So like Vader's internal monologue about like, oh, Luke's getting better at the Force, he'll join the Empire or he will, and it's just like, well, wait, I can't acknowledge that this is my son because some people might think that's not the case. So we really have to be careful about what Vader's thinking, or at least what we're saying he's thinking, right?
Well, and we do get that scene between Vader and the Emperor in Empire that is just like, but if he could be turned. Like, there is this impetus already in the plot of Vader seems more determined to turn him than kill him.
This is true.
So there's
that's
a
right.
lot
I
of
mean,
rope you can play with there.
Yes, and I think they do a good job of it. But it's a thing where I'm just like, what kind of what kind of confrontation's about to happen between these two? They go somewhere else, which is good. But like, it is a thing where I'm going like, well, they're not going to clash again, are they? No, they don't.
Right. No. If anything, what they do is use this as an opportunity to just really give us a badass Vader moment, because Colonel Nord is going to push the button to open that airlock and say, "Die, you sorceress slug, die."
It also, the other thing I like about it is because he's focused on Luke, he may be off his game a little bit in terms of realizing that other people are moving against him.
Totally.
Which I appreciate.
We get this sequence where the airlock opens and everything is sucked out into space, including Vader.
I do love describing him as a sorcerer's slug. And yeah, so, Vader, the art of Vader's cape and sort of battle skirt or whatever you would call it.
Mm-hmm. His tunic.
Yeah, being ripped out into space here is great.
And Luke with his proton grenade, the proton grenade gets sucked out of his hand and clonks Vader in the helmet. Though it doesn't explode.
Nope. But I like, once again, what could be and would be in maybe somebody else's hands, kind of a silly moment. The idea of it smacking against a night dark helmet
before pulling it irrevocably into the dark, deadly cold beyond.
Somehow he made something clonking off of Vader's helmet badass and not silly.
It's a one-way journey that the startled Sith Lord almost joins. But thankfully, Luke has a super hand, so he doesn't get dragged out into space.
I love you, super hand. At least you didn't say that again. Remember that? Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet, sweet robot hand. My best friend.
The comic seems to be making more about the capabilities of Luke's cyborg hand than the movies ever did.
Yeah, the movie, he's just kind of a hand, right? Like, it's just sort of like, now I have a hand and it's robotic.
Whereas the comic book said, oh, he's got a robot hand? Sweet.
Yeah, the writers of the comic really thought the movie 3 was going to open up and he's doing all kinds of sweet superhero shit with this hand. It's like, no, that's
In
just
their
kind of just.
defense, anyone with like a
Yeah.
robot appendage in a Marvel comic book gets superpowers because of it.
Oh no, I don't blame them for thinking that. It's just weird to see it in retrospect now and go like, no, the robot hands in this world are kind of just replacements for hands. They're not really given a lot of super ability.
I mean, unless you're Valance who can shoot laser beams out of them, yeah.
Wow. But he's a comic book character for a reason. But
Luke
yeah,
manages to pull
Vader.
himself into a dumbwaiter.
Yep, good for Luke. And then Vader just powers himself back into the ship.
I want to read all this captioning work because I think it's fucking awesome. So, while at the airlock, Darth Vader also braces, easing his inner rage and calling on the dark side of the Force to do the impossible. As we get Vader's hands like clutching the outside of the airlock and then him dragging himself in. Slowly releasing his tenuous handhold, the fallen Jedi stands. He sways slightly, and then, arching forward, he begins to walk against the unstoppable winds, foot by inconceivable foot.
I mean, that does paint a picture of this guy just he just comes back in, and you're like, oh boy.
And it really emphasizes the like unstoppable monster nature of Vader. Here's a guy who can literally walk against the winds of the vacuum of space.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, that's what we're talking about. That's how you write Vader. He is the unstoppable force. When you try to make him too much of a guy, and especially try to make him like a real witty little snarky dude. No. This is a guy who doesn't need.
Joke's on you, princess. You played within the plan of my plan that I planned around your plan.
Yeah, that's not him. I mean, he may have a plan on top of a plan, but he's not going to say anything. And also, this is a guy who doesn't need to gloat because you just witness what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, we get it here on this middle two panels here where it says, in the long silence that follows, he speaks. I shall deal with you later, Colonel Nord. As on the bridge, a dead man gulps.
That was a great line. A dead man gulps is fantastic. But I also just like the idea about, like, you just tried to murder me, but I've got bigger fish to fry right now. But don't think I don't know who did it.
And Vader with, like, the void-shredded cape, like, just striding back into the hallway here. It's good stuff.
This guy is quickly making his way to an escape pod, right?
He should.
I have to go now.
Oh, look at that. It's my 15-minute lunch break. You got this, right, Captain?
Yeah. I would join the rebellion so fucking fast. But Leia is deep in the bowels of the ship here.
Yeah, somewhere within the Tarkin's shadow depths.
Yeah. And she's lost because she says, I know it shouldn't surprise me, but I am lost. This place is huge. And I don't think it's well labeled.
But she's got this little hand scanner. She starts scanning around, and she's quickly able to pinpoint her position by just like kind of the energy signatures of all the machinery around her. And she finds out that she's in the belly of the ionic cannon, the main weapon of the Tarkin.
The same one that destroyed her home world.
Isn't it great to have Leia remember that her planet blew up?
It does feel like the last couple issues have tried to really bring that back in, right? Like they're almost trying to make up for the and it's something that the comics will continue to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And making that a part of Leia's character is just like, no, she's someone who has had her home robbed of her by the Empire, and that's going to really strengthen her resolve in all of this.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean it's sort of a thing where it's just like that was actually a huge mistake because you've made a powerful enemy, right? By doing that.
Someone who is going to drop 6 bodies casually on her way to walk through this place.
Mm-hmm. Then back to the unstoppable trio of 3PO, R2, and Chewie.
Yeah, they bring on the comm link. They contact Leia.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3PO's addition here is. I think we're getting a phone call. Hello. Yeah. So Leia's calling them, and
Basically confirming that 3PO, R2, and Chewie succeeded in their mission, but Leia has failed. So they need to find an alternate way off this station.
yeah. And they want to know where Luke is. She doesn't know, so she tries calling Luke.
I do like the line here when she's like, "Luke, this is Leia. Can you hear me?" And he responds, "I hear you. I've been hearing you, but I'm a little busy." As we cut to him in a firefight.
Yeah, I'm just currently in the middle of a gunfight, but that's all right. With half the Tarkin's God Squad coming at me through TH10.
Yeah, he says he's in section TH11.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I got you.
And they're coming at him from TH10, which is important because that lets R2 pinpoint where these guys are.
Man, R2 can get Deus Ex Machina, literally. But Deus Ex R2. Because he immediately... and 3PO's like, what are you doing? You're activating the fire control?
Yeah, if anything, this is R2 Ex Machina, because it is R2 entering the machine and programming it to do something it's not supposed to.
Yeah. And it's great because he not only shuts the place in, but he fills it with a fire suppressant foam.
Yeah, so this is, again, like, very clever little remix, because before, R2 was the one who shuts down all the trash compactors on the detention level. Here, he shuts it down and makes it think that there's a fire going on, and it saves Luke.
Kind of another, and this is not a negative by any means, but it's kind of another trope, right? Is like, yeah, the droid hooks into the thing and does the thing to save everybody. You see that all over the place in Star Wars. It's just part of Star Wars storytelling.
They use their scomp unit. It's called a scomp unit.
And you know what? At least it's not coming out of his face.
That's absolutely true.
That was the weirdest thing when they were drawing it like that. It really weirded me out.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Hockaleg.
Yeah, Lando's got to wrangle his way out of this one.
I like this.
These stormtroopers are approaching the Falcon being like, yeah, we got to search your ship.
I like this because it's Lando being a con man, which is what his thing is.
Mom always did say smuggling didn't pay.
He's just like, yeah, I got some drugs here, man. What do you want to take them? They're worth like a whole lot.
I love the stormtrooper's reaction here, too. He's like, I see. Actually, your ship doesn't look like the one we're searching for after all. Sorry to have bothered you.
Now, these are some bad stormtroopers. And then he's just like, yeah, I got to get out of here because those were definitely not drugs. It's slime yeast.
One of the grossest things I've ever heard.
Ugh, two words that should never come together are slime and yeast. Ugh.
Well, look, specifically because it says slime yeast from the Falcon's provisions. It's like, we were eating that?
Yeah, that's what Han and Chewie have been eating. Oh,
well,
boy.
If anything, that might be something similar to those, like, portion of rations we saw Rey eating in Rise of... in The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was probably slime yeast.
It's so disgusting, though. Like all the feelings that conjures in me when I read it is like, ugh, slime yeast.
You ever like a good slimy yeast to just choke down in the morning, John?
God, boy. Like I said, I hate those words independently, and I really hate them together. Yeah. But yeah, off he goes. Anyway, oh man, some poor teenagers about to snort some slime yeast.
Yeah.
Are you feeling it, man? Yeah, I'm starting to feel it.
Meanwhile, they've got like a baggie full of baby aspirin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that, right? Yeah. Because these guys are still gonna move that.
No, I swear, man, it's good sniff. You just gotta get a lot of it in there.
Yeah. No, yeah, maybe I just need more. That's the thing. All right. So where is this? This is back on the Tarkin.
Yeah, back on the Tarkin. Luke and Leia meet back up, and Luke ages 50 years.
Also it looks like there's like mountains behind them though, and the grass It's green. It's weird. That's why it threw me for a second.
Yeah, I think this is like some coloring error stuff.
It's weird. And he's like, sorry, oh, he's a little whiny here.
I couldn't hold on to the grenade long enough.
Yeah. And then, and once again, that horribly aged him, that failure. And she's like, yeah, we don't really have time to worry about that right now. Mainly, we just got to get off this ship. And that he can do.
Yeah, because they find their way into a hangar bay and go steal a ship. But to get the guards out of the way, he shouts, "Look out! They've got a thermocharge!" as he throws a thing onto the ground.
Yeah. Kind of a Han Solo move.
Kind of a Han Solo move, because the people nearby the ship scatter. They go, "Oh God, it's gonna blow!" And as they're running away, Leia's like, "Look, it worked for now, but we better get way away from here before they realize that was just two comm links we tied together."
I do like that Stormtrooper being like, "Hey, wait a minute!"
His rejoinder to that is like, "Hey, this is just two comm links tied together."
I hate when this happens to me. This has happened to this guy before.
Oh, this poor dude.
I'm so getting fired for this. Yeah.
So our plucky Star Warriors have escaped in a small transport ship that looks like something out of Flash Gordon.
Very much so. Or yeah, it's definitely Buck Rogers' ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Vader gives the order to dispatch TIE fighters.
But only two of them, because, like, come on. We don't need to express all of our resources.
Let's not get crazy, all right? We've learned our lesson. We've overcommitted to resources before.
Extremely frugal Vader in this issue.
Really so. He's saving money left and right on this thing. It's just like, I just want to make sure the books balance out is all I'm saying. So yeah, they launched the two fighters.
I love this bit because we have the two TIE fighters coming after them, and Luke's being like, "Don't worry, even in this cargo heavy transport, we can still outfly them. Watch this!" And then they immediately get shot.
Yeah.
So Luke being a little cocky here about the thing he is admittedly like the best at.
And to be fair, I do remember a time very specifically that one Captain Han Solo told him not to get cocky. So
Exactly.
not heeding that lesson. I
guess the Imperial Academy is turning out better pilots these days.
And then, once more, Luke Skywalker is saved by the Millennium Falcon.
Because what's this? A fra-chow and a ra-boom as the two TIE fighters that are chasing them are exploded, and in swoops the Falcon. And Lando Calrissian, folks, at your service.
Yep. And it's like, hey, wait, but also, okay, cool.
First off, man, you disobeyed. Second off, thank you for disobeying.
Yeah. Well, you know that Lando, he is kind of the wild card of the group.
Oh, absolutely. But he swings around to pick him up. Meanwhile, Vader's like, "An unexpected player has entered the game. New challenger approaching."
Yeah. And he's just like, well, time to get out there myself. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself.
And yeah, we get him in his TIE advance. The caption does a lot of heavy lifting here when it says, "and a surprisingly short time later."
Yeah, it is like, wait a minute. You can't just launch these things, can you? I mean, like, for him to get in it right?
Well, look, we also had to give time for the Falcon to swing around and for them to get off of their transport and onto the Falcon, so I gave it some leeway there.
We're cutting it close. We'll just go with that for sure. This is close, but whatever. It's Vader in pursuit of the Falcon, which is cool.
Yeah, and Lando being like, "Hey, that's Vader. Now's our chance." But Luke is like, "Hey, no, that's Vader. We don't fuck with Vader."
But I like that once again. Like I always loved Han just quick drawing and shooting at Vader and Empire. I like that. Like Han and Lando are just like, well, I'm just gonna fucking kill this guy if I get the shot. You know, this guy sucks.
Mm-hmm.
How pissed would Luke be, by the way, if Han or Lando had killed Vader, right?
Well,
actually,
I don't know. Until he has like the context of Vader is his father confirmed, I feel like up until that point in Jedi, if somebody else had taken Vader out, yeah.
But it's like the idea about like, I don't get what your issue was, man. You keep fighting that guy and losing. I just took him out in 2 seconds, man. Boom, boom, boom.
The trick was not using the weird laser sword. The trick was just shooting him, it turned out.
That'd be amazing, yeah. Han just quick draws and kills him because Vader, I've never comprehended someone could just use a blaster. Oh. That's the one thing I didn't count on, guns.
But Vader's opening fire on the Falcon and taking down their rear shields, and then chasing them through some debris that's all around the space dock here. But
yeah,
it looks like they're in trouble, but Luke's got a plan.
He sure does, and it's a good one.
Yeah, this was really clever in terms of just sheer spaceship maneuvering. When I read this, I was like, oh, that's really smart.
And not something we've seen before. It's not a rehash of anything from other Star Wars thing I can think of. So
yeah,
he jettisons the water supply of the ship, as they say there, which freezes into basically little asteroids.
Yeah, I mean, my one problem with this sequence is Vader's dialogue here, as he says aloud, "Ice directly in my path, and I'm going too fast."
Yeah, I preferred if you'd seen him come at the ice and he just said, "Well done, young Skywalker." That would have been fine for me.
Yeah, but it's a comic book. They need to over-explain some stuff.
And then, I don't understand. The ship explodes and Vader, he's just out there?
Well, because, okay, we see his TIE fighter, crash into the ice, and, at least one wing is torn apart. The explosion looks a little bit more dramatic than maybe it actually is.
Right, the main cockpit is still intact.
Yeah, but we get a little bit of dialogue back here on the bridge as somebody says, "Colonel Nord, Lord Vader's ship has been disabled, but our sensors indicate that he's still alive." And Nord's like, okay, well, he told us to stop the rebel ship, and he's out near the rebel ship. Wouldn't it be a shame if we just pressed this button and blew up everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's another... Both of the plans to kill Vader are, on paper, damn good.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much Tarkin at the end of Rogue One being like, oh no, Director Krennic's down there on the planet? Well,
ooh, bad.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Well... He will be missed. Yeah. So they start to fire it, but what's this? Leia's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I did sabotage the cannon.
And one more thing, it friggin' explodes.
Oh, it goes up big time because there it is. There's a whole page of just the explosion of this thing. It's not quite Death Star levels, but it's pretty... A lot more smoke in there.
Because it's not quite the Death Star, so that makes sense. Because it says, and in an awesome blaze of energy, unleashed the Tarkin, the Empire's most devastating weapon since the Death Star, dies.
The turn the page and dies is pretty great.
That's good comic book timing right there.
Yeah. And I don't know why Leia is drawn shocked. I guess maybe just at the size of the explosion or something, because then she goes like, oh, wait, I did that.
Yeah. Because, on our last page here, everyone's just like, wait, hold on, what? It just blew up?
I don't understand. And she's like, I do. What'd she say? She reversed the... couple of wires to reverse the polarity modes of the cannon's fire controls, so that when it was inactivated, the cannon, in essence, shot itself.
Smart move, Leia.
Smart move, Leia, except for that could have gotten rid of Vader. Though, why would we have done that? It is a thing where it's like, oh man, that could have been big.
I mean, but Leia didn't even know Vader was there until it was too late.
No, there's no. It's it comes out in the wash or whatever. On that.
Yeah,
but I don't blame her for that, but it is like, damn.
And we get a little bit of a reprieve here between Lando and Leia's relationship, as she says, "Well, Lando, then I wouldn't be able to thank you for disobeying orders and pulling our fat out of the fire, would I?"
Hey, man, you're all right.
Yeah. So the rebels smile, returning to their controls and heading the Millennium Falcon outward to the stars and to adventure. Yeah, presumably Lando and Chewie will get back to looking around for their old buddy Han.
Oh, right, that's happening. Not too soon, because next week it's Last Gift from Alderaan.
What a misleading title this is.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
we'll get into it next week more, but the next couple of issues we're going to cover are a trial.
It is, strap in, folks, because it is weird.
We have a guest writer for the next two issues, the legendary Chris Claremont, who, of course, redefined like Marvel Comics basically with his run on X-Men and the adjoining books.
Yeah, I mean, he basically ran the entire X, universe for, what was his run, like 17 years, something insane,
something
like
ridiculous like that. Yeah,
yeah.
A run that like has never been touched in terms of its length by another creator.
I honestly really probably don't think it will be,
except for maybe Larry Hama with G.I. Joe.
Yes, that's the biggest one. That's I believe he does hold the record for the longest non-superhero run.
Yeah, but
that's in.
Chris Claremont, for all of his highs, has also had some low lows over the years. And
I would say, outside of the X-Men comics, it's a real crapshoot with that guy.
And we're about to find the crap in that shoot as we dive into Chris Claremont's.
I mean, it seems like
Star Wars.
Believe me, folks, we are not overselling it. It is so weird what's about to happen on this show.
And while the next issue might be called Last Gift from Alderaan, it should maybe be called The Last Gift of Edgar Rice Burroughs, as Star Wars meets John Carter of Mars in a way nobody expected.
No. And I would say it's more John Carter of Mars eats Star Wars, but that's because also you would think Last Gift from Alderaan, you're like, oh, cool, a Leia story. Not really, kind of.
We'll get into it. But yeah, strap in, because we're in for a doozy of a couple of issues.
We are legally obligated to warn you about it, though, is why we're saying
it's a health hazard, so we got to put that warning label on.
But if you want more from us at this show and all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, you can want to head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. There you get cool exclusive bonus content from all the shows. Plus, you get to help out the network and help us improve all the stuff we do here.
Absolutely, which includes our YouTube page, youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. There you can hear/watch all of our shows. I think it's the best way of watching this show, because you can read the comic along with us, see those cool double-page spreads when they come up, and exult over some of the sillier art that we check out. But over there, you can also find all sorts of stuff, like Punch Up Goes to the Movies, where we talk about movies occasionally. We have a couple of like YouTube exclusive series over there. Yeah, John?
Yeah. We sure do. I think Punch Up Plays is also probably going by now, right?
Yeah, Punch Up Plays is absolutely up and running. Elliot Lewis and I are plugging through the Mass Effect franchise. That's its own little space adventure, firmly inspired by Star Wars, among so many other things.
You can also watch my interview series, Give Me Five, where I talk to creators from all sorts of different mediums in art.
And yeah, while you're there, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell, get notifications every time something from the Punch Up Entertainment Network crosses your feed. You will get an alert, and it helps us out by improving the algorithm in some way. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm told it helps us.
It's a mystery, and I think they like it that way over at YouTube. So
that's fair. But I think that's going to do it for us here today. And as always, I have been Mike Ergoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And may the panel be with you.